by the Montana Television Network. Montana This Morning continues on Montana's news leader.
I'm Laura Podesta outside the New York City Police Precinct where Harvey Weinstein is expected to turn himself in this morning. I'll have details on the criminal charges he could be facing.
And this just in as an update, he has turned himself in as of about an hour ago this morning. Harvey Weinstein in New York City expecting to face criminal charges related to allegations of sex abuse.
Yeah, it turns out dozens of women say he sexually harassed them, but this would be the first criminal case against the former Hollywood mogul. CBS News' Laura Podesta is in Lower Manhattan with the details.
Harvey Weinstein is expected to surrender to authorities today. He's facing criminal charges involving at least one of the women who've accused him of sexual assault. The case reportedly involves actress Lucia Evans. She told investigators and The New Yorker that Weinstein forced her to perform oral sex on him in his Miramax office in Manhattan in 2004. Late last year, the Manhattan DA's office appointed a senior sex crimes prosecutor to investigate accusations by Boardwalk Empire actress Paz de la Huerta. She insists Weinstein raped her twice in 2010. Weinstein has repeatedly denied having non-consensual sex with any of the women who've come forward. A spokesperson for the Manhattan District Attorney told CBS News yesterday, quote, "Our investigation is in an advanced stage." The NYPD says it's looking into multiple accusations.
We have several complaints and it's actively being investigated.
The avalanche of allegations against Weinstein ignited the Me Too and Time's Up movements. Laura Podesta, CBS News, New York.
Now, earlier this week, CBS News learned federal authorities have been investigating Weinstein since last January. Individuals were questioned regarding Weinstein's arranging the travel of women for the purpose of having sex. Again, updating this 5:30 our time, 7:30 Eastern time, he did turn himself in to authorities in New York. So more to follow at 7 o'clock on CBS this morning.
Absolutely. More to follow on Memorial Day weekend plans, weather, all that just ahead.
Another 2-day weekend.
Is that this weekend?
It's a good one, yeah.
I didn't hear about that.
Yeah.
Temperatures holding into the 40s. We have fairly clear skies for most of us. There is a chance that areas west of the Divide could see an afternoon thunder shower today. It looks like more showers for the weekend. We're going to update your complete forecast coming up in just a few minutes.
Thank you, Matt. It's now 6:33 here on your Friday morning. Our top local story for you now. The man known as the biggest drug supplier in the Bozeman and Belgrade area will spend more than 15 years behind bars after pleading guilty to drug charges. 38-year-old Edward Paul Ellington was sentenced yesterday to 190 months in prison, followed by 5 years supervised release after pleading guilty to conspiracy to possess methamphetamine with intent to distribute. Now, according to charging documents, Ellington was involved in a large drug conspiracy operating ring in Gallatin and Broadwater counties from July 2016 to May 2017. For the full story, head on over to our websites.
In other headlines, volunteers in Butte yesterday stepped out into the community to do a little spring cleaning along the local creeks. MTN's John Amy tells us how the young and the old work together to help the environment.
Hundreds of children volunteered to clean up Butte's creeks because they care about the environment.
Being part of the solution, and also I'm getting away from school.
It's fun and you get out of school.
Okay, they also like getting the day off of school, but the 300 students and adult volunteers also appreciate the importance of keeping Silverbow and Blacktail creeks clean during this annual community event.
Well, I thought it would be a good thing to volunteer for because we'll help clean up fix the environment so nothing no wild animals eat something that they're not supposed to eat and get poisoned.
Volunteers filled 20 garbage bags in just 1 hour and found many interesting items.
Our most famous find on this section, we found an oil pan, and so that was not so awesome for the creek because oil in the creek is not a good thing.
In 5 years, this annual cleanup has made a big difference.
In the first year, it took us forever just to make, a half a mile of creek, and now we're able to do the whole thing from Father Sheehan to the chamber, and so it's a lot less trash that's actually in the stream.
Well, Silverbow Creek has certainly come a long way from the decades of neglect, but environmentalists say people still have to be vigilant to keep this waterway clean.
But compared to the 1970s version, where this used to run red, and there was, like I said, actual things like things that would be at the landfill, a refrigerator or tires and all of that, it is miles ahead of that. But we still have miles to go in restoring and cleaning it up.
They say it's important to keep the Butte creeks clean because they flow into the Columbia River and other waterways west. In Butte, John Amy, MTN News.
In other news here on your Friday morning, the woman who survived a bear attack last week near Libby is now said to be in fair condition. A program at Kalispell Regional Medical Center played a big part in her recovery. MTN Nicole Miller has our story.
Last week, a woman who survived a bear attack near Libby was taken by alert ambulance to Kalispell Regional Medical Center. The hospital's foundation president, Tegan Vine, says what makes the program special is it responds to such missions.
It goes to remote areas and does site landings and helps with, and many times, the search and rescue operations, whereas a lot of air ambulances really just do facility-to-facility transports. So, like the most recent example of the bear mauling near Libby, that was a remote site.
Vine says this is the 33rd bear attack incident Alert Air Ambulance has responded to.
It happens to be the 33rd bear mauling patient that the Alert crew has handled, which is more than any other air ambulance program in the United States.
Vine says the program has been a partnership between the hospital and the greater Flathead community for more than 40 years, serving northwest Montana from Cut Bank to Libby and beyond. Meanwhile, Montana Fish, Wildlife and Parks Wildlife Attack Response Team continues their investigation.
Montana Fish, Wildlife and Parks is responsible for investigating any types of conflict that happens in the wild with wildlife.
Region 1 Education Officer Dylan Tabish says the agency could not release any further details Tuesday, but he encourages recreationists to carry bear spray and keep it with them.
It is a proven tool that has been successful in the wild when it comes to conflicts with wildlife. It causes a temporary pain in the eyes, nose, and lungs of an animal if you do spray it.
The agency is working to determine the type of bear involved, but that is yet to be determined. In Kalispell, Nicole Miller, MTN News.
Shifting gears just a bit here at 6:38, the superintendent of Yellowstone National Park says he expects the park will ship bison to the Fort Peck Reservation before the end of the year. Those animals will be used to add to a purebred herd on tribal land. DN's John Shearer spoke with Dan Wank about the bison sharing program, which went through some challenging times this past winter.
Really, we had to start over. Yellowstone National Park Superintendent Dan Wank is talking about the program to quarantine bison to share with Montana's Fort Peck tribe. But the program was dealt a big setback this winter.
They let out bison we've been holding some for as long as about 18 months or 21 months.
Fences were cut and bison escaped.
That really is a violation of the protocols, so you really have to start over again.
There are now 70 male and 25 female bison being tested and retested to make sure they don't have brucellosis. That's a disease ranchers fear could be transmitted to cattle.
We've never had the transmission of disease from bison to cattle. All the transmissions of disease have been from elk to cattle.
That's partly why Wank says the bison can be ready to share in months instead of years.
We believe that we're complying with uniform methods and rules.
But Wank has to convince others that he is right.
We're in negotiations now with the state of Montana, APHIS, as well as the tribes at Fort Peck.
But Wank is optimistic.
So I think we're going to meet all the standards that are out there.
When you talk to Park Superintendent Dan Wank, you quickly learn that he really likes Yellowstone. But most of all, he likes the bison.
It's such a tremendous resource and such an incredible opportunity for the public.
Wank says it gives the public a chance to get a glimpse of what primitive America really used to look like.
Yellowstone is, one of the last remnants, of a genetically pure native population of bison, and that's pretty special.
Wank says he could always use some extra funding to create a backup herd of genetically pure bison, but adds that should not be an excuse for failing to act quickly to share bison with Fort Peck and other tribes. In Yellowstone National Park, I'm John Shearer, for MTN News.
Now, so far, there are no arrests in connection with the two incidences where fences were cut. Park Service declined to show us where that happened or share details about the progress in the ongoing investigation. But the Park Service does say extra security has been added to the Bison quarantine areas.
Interesting stuff there.
For sure.
Good morning to you and happy Friday. Our own political analyst, Dr. David Parker, sits down with Democratic candidate for the House, Grant Keir, in just a moment.
But first, let's check in with Gail King for a look at what's coming up at 7 on CBS this morning.
Good morning. Ahead on CBS this morning, we're at the police station where Harvey Weinstein is turning himself in on sex crime charges. We'll talk with Jody Cantor, one of the reporters who broke the Weinstein allegation story, and legal analyst Ricky Kleeman. And hear from the woman who says her Amazon Echo recorded a private conversation she had with her husband and sent it to one of his employees. Yikes! What were they talking about? We'll see you 7 o'clock on the dot.